Hello, second graders. Today, Monday, December 14th, we will have two reading lessons. Our first reading lesson is going to be our big idea and our read aloud for the week. And our second reading lesson will be on our new phonics skill for the week. Now, last week, I accidentally gave you the read aloud for this week. So this week, we were supposed to do our community read aloud and our big idea, how can people help out in their community. So I hope you watched that last week. That is actually supposed to be for this week. So last week, instead of making you re-watch a new one, I just thought I would switch the weeks. So this week in our reading, we are going to be talking about how can people help out their community. So instead of doing this read aloud again, I want to go back to last week's read aloud that I was supposed to do. And last week, we learned all about the night sky. And so our big idea for last week was, what can we see in the sky? And so we talked about when you're outside, what do you see in the sky? And we see the sky and the clouds, we see the moon, we see a rainbow. And then I want you to think right now, what can you see during the day when the sunlight is out? And then I also want you to think, what can you see in the nighttime sky when like the moonlight is out? Because we are going to compare and contrast. So as we listen to our read aloud, I want you to be thinking, what do you see in the daytime sky and what do you see in the nighttime sky? Okay? Our read aloud for today is called The Hidden Sun.
The hidden sun. Have you ever looked at the sky? What objects have you seen in the sky? Good morning, Ms. Moore said when everyone was settled. Today we are going to continue our science topic. We have been learning about the sky. Can anyone remember some of the things we've talked about? Holly raised her hand. Comets, she said. The stars, Mike said. The moon, the Big Dipper, constellations, clouds. Very good. Now we are going to write reports. We'll work in groups of 2. Each group will think of something in the sky to work on this week. On Friday, you will present your reports to the class. You will need to research your topics. You should include pictures in your reports. Your pictures can be photographs, drawings, videos, or anything else you can think of.
Okay, so Mrs. Moore's class is learning about the sky, and one of the key vocabulary words is reports. Now, they're going to have to write a report, and a report is to tell about things you have learned. And then they're going to have to present the report. So another key vocabulary word is present. And present means to show or tell about it in front of people or an audience. So on this card, I want you to think of, what are some of the things that they have learned about? So if you can think of, what were some of the topics the kids have been learning about? If you thought about the comets, the stars, the moon, the constellations, and the clouds, you are right. All right, let's go on to our second card.
Maybe we could give a report about a solar eclipse, Holly told her partner Mike. A solar eclipse is really interesting. That sounds fun. What is a solar eclipse? Said Mike. Ms. Moore said a solar eclipse happens when the moon moves between the sun and earth and hides the sun, said Holly. Look, this book tells that when the moon hides the sun, the sky gets dark. It's like someone has turned off the light. Holly added, but the light isn't really off. The light is just as strong during an eclipse. It says that watching a solar eclipse can ruin our eyes, even when the sun is hidden by the moon. Then how does anyone know what it looks like? They said at exactly the same time. The next day, after school, Holly and Mike worked on their report at Holly's house. Holly's mother helped them find a solar eclipse website that was easy to understand.
A key vocabulary word on this card is exactly, and exactly means without any mistake or in a way that matches. So, Mike and Holly are working on a report together, and they are working on the solar eclipse. And so they're finding information about the solar eclipse, and they have learned a solar eclipse happens when the moon moves between the sun and earth, and it hides the sun. And this solar eclipse can ruin your eyes, so you have to wear special solar eclipse glasses. And a solar eclipse happened a couple years ago, and in a few more years there'll be another solar eclipse. They happen maybe every 10 to 15 to 20 years. They don't happen very often, and you usually have to travel in order to go see a solar eclipse because they don't happen right where you live. So there's a certain line that the sun and the moon are at, and you have to make sure you're at that spot in order to see a solar eclipse. Let's move on to the next card.
Look, Mike said, pointing to the computer monitor. There's a picture of the moon passing between Earth and the sun. Only part of the sun is hidden. It says that's a partial solar eclipse. When the moon hides all of the sun, it's called a total eclipse. I wish I could see a solar eclipse, Holly sighed. But it says here, a total eclipse only happens every 65 years or so. But partial eclipses happen much more often, Mike said. It says there's some kind of eclipse about 2 times a year. Maybe we can see one. But how? Remember what Ms. Moore told us? Looking at the sun is very bad for our eyes. Then how did people take those pictures? Mike asked. There's an observatory nearby, Holly's mother told them. The people there study the sky and the moon and the stars. Maybe they can answer your question. Mike and Holly called the observatory and spoke with a scientist named Mr. Jackson. We have a question, Holly asked. How do people know what solar eclipses look like if they can't watch them? Would you like to visit our observatory? Mr. Jackson said. We're having a special program for kids next week. I can show you all the ways to see a solar eclipse without hurting your eyes.
Okay, a key vocabulary word on this card is total, and total means the whole or entire thing. So we know that there's a partial eclipse and there's a total eclipse. And a total eclipse is when the moon hides all of the sun. And that happens, they said, usually once in your lifetime, so every about 60 years, that happens. All right, so we're gonna go on to the next card, the last card, and finish it as they are at the observatory.
Holly's mom took them to the observatory. They saw many things. They learned about the moon, the planets, and the sun. Mr. Jackson joined them as they were reading a sign that said, "The light from the sun is very bright. Never look directly at the sun." Are you the people who want to know how to watch a solar eclipse? He asked. Holly and Mike nodded. Mr. Jackson led them to a room filled with telescopes. Everyone wears special eclipse glasses, he explained. The glasses filter out the sunlight that can hurt your eyes. Mr. Jackson gave Holly and Mike some special eclipse glasses. Do you wear them? Holly asked as she put them on. Yes, and here at the observatory, we have special telescopes with special filters. When we look through a telescope, the moon, planets, and other things in the sky seem very close to us. When we look at the sun, we use telescopes that filter the light. Mr. Jackson gave Mike and Holly lots of solar eclipse photos and thanked them for coming. On Friday, Mike and Holly put on their special glasses and passed the photos around. Then they told the rest of the class everything they had learned at the observatory.
So on this card, a key vocabulary word is telescopes. And telescopes make things that are far away seem closer and larger. So if you wanted to look at the nighttime sky or the daytime sky, you need a telescope in order to do that. Now, on this card, I want you to think about what Mr. Jackson tells Mike and Holly about the solar eclipse. What were some facts that he tells them? And then also, why does Holly and Mike have to wear those special eclipse glasses? Now, if you go see eclipse, you need to wear these glasses because the glasses help filter out the sunlight that can help your eyes. So they kind of block that sunlight that can hurt your eyes. So you need to wear these so that when you're watching the eclipse, it doesn't hurt your eyes. Okay? All right. Hope you enjoyed learning about the hidden sun. Like I said, this was supposed to be for last week. I apologize mixing up my read aloud stories for the week, but we just flip-flopped them. So we learned all last week about the nighttime sky and the daytime sky and a little bit about our planet, our solar system. And then this week in reading, we will be talking about our community.